What's going on, everybody? I'm Cade Morehouse with Cade Side Press, and today I am joined by amateur fighter out of the MMA lab, Olivia Hendrickson. Olivia, how's it going?
Hi guys, it's going great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I'm glad we finally were able to connect.
Yeah, life's been getting in the way, but it's all right. We'll get it done.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
let's get into it. You just had a win not too long ago over Hannah Wagner at LFA. Um, it was a decision win. How'd you feel in there? And you know, how do you think that your game is improving each time you step foot in the octagon?
I felt really blessed to get the opportunity to fight for LFA. A huge thank you to my team and my management team as well to get to fight for that platform. It was really exciting for me. I felt like I was able to really mentally grow this time. So I've made improvements from day one, but the biggest step for me in this one was that I was just able to really be present. I boxed for a long time. And so to make that transition over from fighting to a different style of fighting has been a little more rocky than I thought it would be. And so I just feel really lucky to feel like I was able to mentally be really present and be open to what was in front of me for this fight.
I gotta ask you, because your coaches are so good. I mean, I've been going and interviewing fighters from the MMA lab for the last couple of years. I love everybody there, but like they're all so smart. But I mean, I guess my question to you is like when you're in the cage and your coaches are shouting things at you, how much do you trust their judgment versus like your instincts, if that makes sense?
Oh, I trust them 1,000%. I always know, especially at this point in my game, that if they're saying something, it's there and they're saying it for a reason. I'm really lucky to work with such high level coaches that if they're saying something, it's not for just to say it. So I work really hard to be as high in my fight IQ as I can be, but that's the whole reason I have the team behind me to see the things I can't see. So if they're calling for something that I need to adjust, I'm trying to make that adjustment immediately.
Yeah, nice, nice. I was gonna ask you, you know, what drives your passion for MMA? Because I did do a lot of research like on you as much as I could, and I did find out that obviously you boxed and that was your passion, and then you stopped, and then you weren't gonna fight anymore, and then you got into MMA. So I guess yeah, that's my question. What drives your passion for this?
Sure. So I really, really enjoy fighting. I'm learning that I thought it was just boxing, but that it's more just fighting in general. I feel really lucky to have stepped into the MMA lab as my first and now only MMA gym. So to take fighting to the next level is always what I want to do. And that's what I feel like drives me in MMA. I took boxing as far as I could. It didn't work out for me. And I'm realizing it didn't work out for me because I'm meant to be in MMA. This is just a new journey. I'm here to continue to progress and and take MMA as far as I can. So my passion behind MMA really just comes behind my passion of fighting.
Like when you have like you had a passion for boxing and then transition to MMA, I guess did you have any influence that like influenced you to transition to MMA, or was it just something that you were like, I just want to try something different?
Oh no, I started doing MMA because of my friend Leslie Hernandez. So I had boxed with Leslie for a number of years prior to getting into MMA, and she had been doing MMA while we were boxing. She was doing both at the same time. I told her all the time that she was crazy. I was like, "You do MMA? That's wild. You let people kick you in the face? That's crazy. Like, how could you ever do that?" And then when I decided to stop boxing, I took some time off. My whole goal was I was going to go back to school. My parents have always been really big supporters of me and my dreams, which I've been really lucky and really blessed. But when I lost my Olympic run, I told them like, "Hey, I'm gonna go back to school. I'm gonna go get a normal job, do the normal people thing." And I just because I was sad, I didn't realize that I shouldn't say I didn't realize. I knew how much boxing meant to me, but I thought I could put it away. I thought I could put fighting aside. And my friend Leslie, she knew better. And so after about a year of completely pushing fighting aside and really diving into working and school, she was like, "Hey, you should come check out the gym. You should come check out the gym." And finally, after enough, "You should come check out the gym," I did. And it's really just been full speed ahead since then. I just did everything I could to change my lifestyle to fit so that I could be at the lab as much as I possibly could. And I've been so blessed to work with John Crouch and the other high level coaches at the gym that have really just took me under their wing and helped me thrive so that we can really take this dream full force.
How long have you been at the lab?
I started at the lab at the end of 2021, but it was really part-time because at that time I was a full-time student and I had 3 jobs. So it was just really hard for me to make practices. But by about spring, the early beginning of 2022 is when I really was full force at the lab.
I want to ask you, you've already said a couple good things about the lab in this interview, so I feel like I already know your answer to the next question, but can you just speak a little bit on like what the lab has meant to you since the transition? Because I don't even train MMA at all and I don't go to the lab, but every time I step foot in there, it's like everybody makes me feel at home, like I'm part of the family. Like honestly, everybody. Like there hasn't been one mean person at the lab. Everybody's so nice there. So can you just speak on that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. You don't run into mean people at the lab because they don't last. If you come in with a bad attitude, you're just not really going to fit our team culture. That goes not just in terms of our pro team, but that expands into the everyday students who come and train at the lab. I feel really lucky because every coach really takes their time with you. Nobody's ever going to come down on you for not knowing something. Everybody's just there to help you and be better. And that goes for my coaches as well as my teammates. At the end of every practice, we do a breakdown, and often after one of us fights, we get to do the breakdown, and everybody always has positive things to say. And I feel like that speaks so much to our team culture. It speaks so much to who we are and how we want to fight. Yes, fighting and it's violent and all these things, but we're really a family. We're really a unit, and we all work together to be our best selves in the cage, but out of the cage too. And I think that's really what makes the difference at the lab. I'm not looking at you as my fighter teammate. I'm looking at you as my teammate, as my friend, as a person who is growing with me, as well as growing as a fighter and an athlete.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get some of the best talent in the world at the lab. You got Batista, McGee, Benson, Cannonier, Courtney, Jakar, Bryce.
Oh,
Uh,
the list goes on.
you got my guy Mike Hamill there. All the up and comers, Paul, Leslie, like you noticed. So many, Antoine, so many like great fighters. But I just want to ask you, and even the coaches like Randy Crouch, Rob, that I'm sure you've gotten a chance to work with, like everybody, what can you just speak on like how not only these people just being around you have not only made you like a better person, but just like a better athlete in general since making the transition from boxing to MMA? Because I can't assume that that's the easiest transition. Maybe easy because you might have the hands, but there's so much different things going on in MMA.
Oh, most definitely. To speak on the coaches, what really has been such a blessing for me is to trust my coaching. So I grew up boxing. I was lucky enough that me and my dad took boxing on full force for the first 8 years of my career. It was me and him against the world, and we just did everything we could to make it happen. We went to every single tournament, but we didn't always get the coaching tools that we wanted. So when I moved here to Arizona, I moved here for boxing. And I ran into a coach that we didn't see eye to eye on how a coach athlete relationship should be. And that was a really hard thing for me, and part of a reason why I decided to put boxing away. And so to come into somewhere like the lab where every single coach will work with myself the same as they're working with somebody like Jared Cannonier, Mario Bautista, Marcus McGee, they're working with me and investing in me, a amateur fighter, as much as they're investing with these top tier, top level guys at the heights of their career. And I feel like that's a huge reason that I'm really, really grateful to work with those coaches. My corner team, John Crouch and Ivan Hubera Madrid, they really are the ones that are pouring into me the most. I'm lucky to work with Randy, to work with Rob, Coach Emerson. They're all really great coaches, but I do feel just really, really confident in my team, kind of how we spoke on earlier, just feeling so lucky to really trust my corner, because every time I go into the cage, I know that I can look across at the fighter across from me, knowing I can give it everything that I have. And I think that makes a huge, huge difference in the coaching, is that I know they're there for me, and so I can put it all on the line.
You know, I want to ask you, that actually brings up another question, what you just brought up. Like, I guess my question to you is, I do kind of notice that at the lab, the main guy in the corner is crouched most times. And then you guys will either have Randy or Rob or a mix of just maybe a guy, somebody else. But, you know, how do you think an athlete and coach's relationship is supposed to be, and how do you choose the guys that's going to be in your corner with all those great coaches surrounding you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm lucky that I have a bouquet of coaches in front of me that I could choose from. But for myself personally, I love to have Crouch. He's the head coach at the lab. His experience, his knowledge, his love for me in and out of the cage is really what makes a big difference for me. Something that I feel is really important is trusting that they are looking out for my well-being, whether I win or lose. I need to know that you care about my brain and how I'm going to come out of this fight, because I know I'm going in there and fighting until the wheels come off. And so I have to be able to have a coach that's looking at the safety and the just my well-being. And for myself personally, that is John Crouch and Ivan Gil de la Madrid. They are the ones that work with me on a daily basis. Ivan's there holding pads for me, coming to practices. Crouch is at every single practice, every single sparring session, really dedicating that time to me. I even just recently sat down with Crouch and had, he's the head coach of the entire lab, of the whole pro team. He has a number of things to do, and he still makes sure to take the time. We sat down for 45 minutes just talking about me and my year and how my fights are going, what's next for me, where's my career going. And I think that's really what makes it easy for me to choose him and to choose Ivan, to have them in my corner, is just the constant investment in myself and the constant investment in my career. And I know all I have to do is show up. And if I show up, I'm going to get better, and they're going to be there making sure that I do.
Does Crouch play a big part in that? Like choosing who is the best people that fit your style to be in your corner? Or is that kind
Honestly, no. He really doesn't. He always tells us, like, you guys are adults. If you don't want me in your corner, then whatever's going to be great for you. Personally, I think it's silly if you don't have Crouch in your corner. You have such a wonderful tool, such a wonderful coach to be able to utilize. So I always do my best to be able to utilize him. But that being said, there is a lot. Part of what plays a role in who's going to be in your corner is the fact that fights are happening at the same time. So there might be a night where he's taken to the UFC and I need to go fight on a smaller promotion card, and we're not going to be in the same area. But that's also a conversation that we have. Hey, are you going to be comfortable? Hey, who are we going to be working with? Let's make sure that we're touching base with them during your camp. So it is a conversation I have with him, but it's definitely one that he lets us as individuals, as fighters, decide for ourselves.
nice? I was gonna ask you, when you have people as nice as yourself and you step into the cage, how do you flip that switch?
Oh, I don't really think the two connect. I always feel like fighting for me is an art. It's something I love to do, and the other person signed up to do it. They are here just like me to do the same thing, and they're going to try to rip my head off. So why not try to rip theirs off too? I love everything about fighting, but to me, you don't have to be mean to fight. You don't have to be an angry individual. In fact, I don't fight while angry. I am always happy. I'm always smiling. I'm always in a good mood because I love what I do, and I feel blessed to be able to do it every day.
I guess one of the last questions I have for you in this type of a subject, I guess, is like when you're going in for a weight cut, how do you mentally prepare yourself for that? Because I've seen some of your guys' weight cuts, and some of them are honestly easier than others because you guys fight close to your weight. Some other fighters don't necessarily fight close to their weight, so it's gruesome. So
Most definitely. Speaking for myself, not for my teammates, because they have had some hard ones. I've been lucky enough that I have had a method, had a plan. Leslie fights at the same weight class as me and is a similar size to me. And so I've been able to really follow in her footsteps in that plan. And I've also fought larger than my weight class. So my first fight, I debuted at 120 pounds. I dropped down for my second fight at 115 pounds, which is where I would like to continue to get fights at, but it's sometimes a little bit more difficult, hence fighting at 120 pounds again in this last fight. So I don't walk around a lot bigger than that. I'm not a tremendously large human. So it's not terribly difficult for me to get down to that weight. Now, it's also not fun. And mentally, you just have to tell yourself that it's all going to be worth it at the end. And it's only a short period of time. It's never going to be more than a couple hours, never going to be, days and days of this. So if this is what it takes to be able to do what I want to do, then that's mentally where I check into. Just keep going, just wait a little longer, just a little more. There's always a little more in the tank. So I think I just tap into that. I know what I want to do, and this is what I have to do to get there.
I wanna ask you this. I know because you come from a fighting background, so you kind of know gyms and stuff like that. And I know you transitioned to MMA, but I also feel like you're kind of a good person to ask this to. What advice would you give to those that maybe want to do MMA or go to a gym and maybe are just scared to, or uh and is it ever too late to join a gym even if you don't want to compete, you just want to train?
Oh, I don't think it's ever too late. So, one of the things that I do for work is I'm actually a boxing personal training coach. So, I don't think it's ever too late for anyone. I train very young children, and I even have clients in their 70s. I think for anybody, if you're interested, it's always a good thing to just start. Just try it. People are always nicer than you think, especially at places like the lab. And my place of work, No Excuse Boxing, we are super open to whoever wants to come through the doors. I think combat sports gets this bad rap of it's mean people and it's scary people and things are going to be negative, and it's just really not the case. We get checked all the time. I'm over here getting my butt kicked all the time, so I'm not really have any time for a bad attitude. And I think that that's something that carries over for a lot of my teammates and a lot of other gyms. Now you're going to run into gyms that are not fitting for everyone, and that's fine, but there's so many good gyms out there, and if you go to a bad one, it's just like anything else, try the next one. So if you're looking for boxing personal training, come check me out at No Excuse Boxing, or go to the MMA lab. They have so many great trainers there who are absolutely kind and willing to help you and meet you right where you're
Nice. So you hear that here, people. Check her out.
at.
Meet some
Check me out,
personal.
people.
uh a couple more. I know I want to get you out of here. Don't want to keep you too long, but I do have a few more for you. You're 3-0, I believe, right? In
Yes.
amateur. So at what point do you go pro? Or is that something that you just let your coaches and team decide for you? And do you think you're close to that point, just not based off your team or anything, but just how you feel against these amateur opponents? Because 3 amateur fights, I mean, that doesn't seem like a lot, but if you feel great in there and you feel like you're better than everybody, then, maybe you feel that you're ready for that point. So I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. This is actually a conversation I just recently had with John Crouch. Um, and we're on the same page, which is great. I would like to get a couple more amateur fights in. I don't personally want to rush the process. I'm 26 years old. I'd like to get, 2, 3 more amateur fights in. I'd like to face some grapplers. I've had the privilege of fighting strikers. And so if I could get in there with somebody who really wants to grapple and presses the grappling, I'd love to test that live before we're doing it for real. So if I could get a couple more of those in, that would be great. So if we're looking at 5-0, 6-0, and then decide to go pro towards the end of the year, I think my goal for this year is really to be active. So I would really like to get 3 or 4 fights in. That would be awesome. Not it doesn't always work out that way. So I do always default to my coaches. So if we hit the end of this year and maybe we only got 1 fight and they're like, hey, I think it's time and we're ready to go pro, then I'm ready to go pro. Because to me, a fight's a fight's a fight. But I don't ever want to rush the process. And that's where I get to default to my wonderful coaches and trust their experience and their knowledge on the matter. Because at the end of the day, all I have to worry about is getting better, getting in the cage, and kicking some butt.
Yeah, no, that's nothing but the truth. I do want to, okay, we'll get to these. I want to give you some fun questions and then we'll get you
Sure.
out of here. Let's start off with this. This one's kind of fun, I feel like, because you were a boxer, now you're MMA, but you see Devin Haney and all these guys talking about coming over here and killing killing MMA fighters, and then MMA fighters are like, dude, I would kill you. Who wins in a fight more times than not, boxers or MMA fighters?
So that's really hard. So in terms of hands, it depends on how are we fighting, right? So we're just putting two people out in the street and you have a boxer and you have an MMA fighter. Well, I might lean towards that MMA fighter because I guarantee a boxer's never been taken down. That was a really hard transition for me to make was I can get really heavy-handed on my punches. And so to learn to use my hips and stand strong and stay on my base a little bit more has been something we're really working on. So I think these boxers who get a little bit overconfident in the fact that MMA fighters can't touch me because my hands are so much better. Although that's true, and that is something that I feel really lucky to have a boxing background in is because I know how to throw a punch. I know where the weight transfer is coming from, and I know how I have technique that I know these girls don't have because of experience alone. So MMA versus boxing, if we're doing an MMA fight, if it's a street fight, I'm probably going to go with a high level MMA fighter versus a high level boxer. Now, if we're boxing, I'm going to choose the boxer every single time. Hands are going to be better. Hands are going to win. They're just going to be much more high level of what they do. So I think it's more just how we're fighting.
It's like a different art.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. My boxing style did not translate as well as I wished it would have into MMA, but there's plenty of boxer styles who have. And I just think they're extremely different games. Amateur boxing to professional boxing is different, let alone professional boxing to MMA fighting. So it really, to me, just depends on how you're fighting. They're both sports, you know? So if we're taking it to the streets, that's a different thing. But in terms of each sport, I think each one is just going to win in their own field.
No, that's how I expect you to answer it, but, you know, everybody has their own opinion on that subject. But favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Oh, this one's terrible. Pretty Woman. I love Julia Roberts, and I know it's a cheesy, corny old movie, but it is my favorite of all time.
I've never even actually seen it.
What? Oh, okay. Well, now you have to watch it. Now you have homework.
Okay, I'll go watch it. I'll go watch it. Favorite hobby outside of fighting?
Favorite hobby outside of fighting? There's life outside of fighting. Crazy. I would say baking. I really enjoy baking. I used to do it as a profession. I love baking cookies. I love baking banana bread. I actually trade my teammates different things for banana bread all the time. So I would say baking.
Nice. Favorite submission?
Ooh, I would say my favorite one's a guillotine, just because that was the one I kind of learned first, and I thought it was really cool, and I tried it a bunch. It's not my most successful one, so I would say probably favorite slash more successful is the rear naked choke. I feel confident once I'm on the back. I feel good, but probably guillotine. Don't tell John Crouch.
Favorite strike?
Oh, right hand for sure. I love a good body shot. And if I can take that right hand straight to the stomach, that's my money.
All right, Olivia, I got one more question for you. When your career, and I'll probably talk to you again before your career ends, but I just like to ask this question. When your career ends, what do you want people to remember most about you?
Oh, I love this question. And I've actually thought a lot about this because fighting can go a number of ways. And even if you put everything into it, you don't know what the outcomes are going to be. But kind of what we spoke on earlier, I really want to show people that fighting isn't a mean person sport. Fighting isn't an angry person sport. You can be a nice, kind human and just be yourself and still fight and be really good at it. Just because you're savage in the cage doesn't mean you have to be a savage, angry personality. And so I think that's my biggest thing is I want young girls who want to fight or young boys who want to fight to look up and be like, hey, look, she's a good person, a nice person, a kind person. And I don't want to be this vulgar person on TV. I don't want to be one of those girls who just shows my body. That's not who I am. I just love fighting. And so I want that to be what people see. I want people to see that this is just a person who loves fighting, and what I do outside of fighting and who I am outside of fighting doesn't mean that I'm angry or mean. I'm not doing this because I'm a malicious human. I just love to fight.
Nice. Well, hey, Olivia, I just want to thank you for taking the time on Christmas. Merry Christmas again.
Merry Christmas.
It was really nice talking to you, getting to know you a little bit, learning about your goals and certain things about you. But before we go, do you have any shout outs or anything you want to say to the people?
Oh, just keep an eye on me. Keep an eye on my team. Everybody and anybody from the MMA lab, we are here to take over. So we are one of the top 5 powerhouse gyms. So if you ever see the MMA lab, you just keep an eye out because we're all coming for
Thank you again. We're out.
it. Thank you.